Speaker, I so move. You know, Mr Speaker, Kiwis don't ask for a lot, but they do expect two things from a government. They expect the opportunity to find employment, and they expect to have a living wage so that at the end of the week the bills don't exceed the income that they're getting in. And I've got to say, Mr Speaker, on both of those fundamentals, Kiwi workers have gone back over the last year under this government and not forward. You know, I went back and checked what our Prime Minister and Minister of Finance were saying about employment last year. At this time, they were boasting about the track record of New Zealand, low unemployment inherited from a Labor government, in comparison to what was happening in Australia. Listen to this from John Key. I do know that New Zealand's unemployment is 5%, and we can contrast that with Australia, which is 5.7%. He said this shows that we're doing a good job in New Zealand in holding down the rate of unemployment. And then there was Bill English. Bill English went a step forward, further than that. He said that New Zealand was doing much better because they got the fiscal stimulus right. Listen to this. He said, our fiscal stimulus has kept our unemployment rate down to 5%. So which one is it? Copy Australia's plan and force the unemployment rate up, or stick to our plan and keep the unemployment rate lower? The problem was, Mr Speaker, there was no plan in New Zealand. There was no plan in New Zealand, but clearly there was an effective plan in Australia. Kevin Rudd, a good stimulus package going to the whole of Australia. R&D up 25%. Money invested in skill and training. And what are the figures today after those boastful claims from John Key and Bill English? Australian unemployment down to 5.3, New Zealand unemployment up to 7.3. For the first time in a decade, New Zealand unemployment running higher than Australia's, in fact at a rate a third higher than Australia. So what did we do in New Zealand, Mr Speaker? We had a job summit. Remember the three big ideas, and the cycleway. The cycleway. I put it to Mr Brownlee. How many jobs in the last 14 months since that job summit have been created in building the cycleway? Do you know the answer, Mr Brownlee? It's zero. Zero. No jobs. No jobs created, Mr Speaker, despite the fact that our unemployment has risen to 168,000 New Zealanders out of work. And then there was this big August employment package that was rushed so that John Key could announce it to the National Party conference in August. Now, we wanted to find out what the thinking was behind that employment package. Radio New Zealand put in an OIA, an official information request, Mr Speaker. For 9 months, National refused to respond to that request. For 9 months. And today it was released, and New Zealand can see why they tried to cover it up. Listen to this from the Treasury. It said this scheme represents poor value for money. Poor value for money. $120 million, which Treasury regarded as being poor value, and it said it was unlikely to increase long-term jobs. No jobs, 6-month subsidies, short-term subsidies to employers, and the jobs disappeared when the subsidies went, Mr Speaker. The big package in August, an absolute failure. 72,000 New Zealanders, young New Zealanders, out of work. Spend more money, they say. What about the fact that 37% of our teenage Maori kids and Pacifica kids are out of work, not in training and not in education? 37%. And I say, Mr Speaker, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And then, of course, we had the mega mining plan. That was going to create jobs, but suddenly that has become modest. Mr. Speaker, they could have created 1,300 jobs in Hilldale. They refused.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Judith